Saturated fat, not sugar, causes diabetes. Intramyocellular lipid accumulation. Fat, specifically intramyocellular lipids, fat stored inside muscle cells, can interfere with insulin signaling. This gums up the door locks on muscle cells, preventing insulin from allowing glucose entry. As a result, both blood glucose and insulin levels rise, since glucose cannot efficiently enter cells to be used for energy. Saturated fat and insulin resistance. Saturated fats are particularly implicated in this process. They can create toxic breakdown products like ceramides and diacylglycerol that directly impair insulin signaling in muscle and liver, increasing insulin resistance. Studies show that even short-term high-saturated fat diets can increase insulin resistance, independent of weight gain. Effects of high-fat diets. High-fat diets can lead to several physiological changes. In the gut, bacterial disruption and carcinogenic metabolites like hydrogen sulfide activate and increase cancers. In the liver, they increase insulin resistance and inflammation while altering lipogenic gene expression. They cause enlargement of white fat adipose tissue and disrupt lipid homeostasis, decreasing adiponectin and fatty acid oxidation. In skeletal muscle, they alter insulin signaling, contributing to insulin resistance. The pancreas experiences altered structure and function of V islet cells, leading to decreased insulin secretion and glucose intolerance. The kidneys show altered glomerular number and volume, while vascular systems see increased glucose levels and blood pressure, along with endothelial dysfunction. The diagram illustrates the impact of a high-fat diet on cognitive health, highlighting several pathways leading to cognitive impairment. 1. Free fatty acid accumulation. Lead to fatty acid oxidation, resulting in excess electron flow. This increases the production of reactive oxygen species, ROS, contributing to oxidative stress, inflammaging. 2. Systemic and neuronal inflammation. Increases the release of inflammatory cytokines, activates microglia, the brain's immune cells, which can lead to neuroinflammation. 3. Lipid accumulation. Accumulation of lipids such as diacylglycerol, DAG, and fatty acyl-CoA. Activates protein kinase C, PKC, impairing IRS1 part 2 tyrosine phosphorylation. Leads to peripheral and central insulin resistance. 4. Hippocampal damage. The combined effects of oxidative stress, inflammation, and insulin resistance cause damage to the hippocampus, a critical brain region for memory and learning. 5. Cognitive impairment. The pathways described culminate in neurodegeneration, highlighting the detrimental effects of a high-fat diet on brain health. Overall, the image emphasizes how a high-fat diet can negatively affect cognitive function through oxidative stress, inflammation, and insulin resistance. How low-carb, high-fat diets cause diabetes. These diets may manage blood glucose by reducing carbohydrate intake, thus preventing glucose spikes. However, they do not reverse insulin resistance. They advance it. In fact, high-fat diets have been shown to impair insulin sensitivity, as confirmed by glucose tolerance tests. This means that while blood sugar may appear controlled, the underlying insulin resistance often persists or worsens. The oral glucose tolerance test, OGTT, is the definitive way to measure insulin sensitivity and true diabetes reversal. If someone cannot tolerate a simple glucose load, like a banana or toast, they have not reversed insulin resistance. They are simply avoiding their symptoms by not eating carbs, and thus suffering the deadly effects of essential fiber and carb deficiency.
When we restricted our diet and then ate something we weren't supposed to, the reaction to eating what we weren't supposed to was absolutely catastrophic.
What did you do? What did you switch to? Or what did you eat, rather?
Well, the worst response, I think we're allergic to, or allergic, whatever the hell this is, having an inflammatory response to something called sulfites. And we had some apple cider that had sulfites in it, and that was really not good. Like, I was done for a month. That was the first time I talked to Sam Harris.
You were done for a month?
Oh, yeah. It took me out for a month. It was awful.
Really?
Yeah. So I would say the worst day of my life, not because of talking to Sam. But it was
just physical.
Oh, Jesus, I was so dead. But I didn't want to not do it. Because
apple cider, like what was it doing?
Sulfites in it.
What was it doing to you?
Oh, it produced an overwhelming sense of impending doom. And I seriously mean overwhelming. Like, there's no way I could have lived like that if that would have lasted for... See, Michaela knew by that point that it would probably only last a month. And I was like...
A month?
Yeah,
from
a month.
Fucking cider?
Oh, I didn't sleep that month. I didn't sleep for 25 days. I didn't sleep at all. I didn't sleep at all for 25 days.
How is that possible? That
I'll tell you how it's possible. You lay in bed, frozen in something approximating terror for 8 hours, and then you get up.
Oh, my God.
Oh, yeah. Not good.
And this is from fucking cider. From cider.
That's what we thought, yeah.
The OGTT is widely regarded as the gold standard for diagnosing type 2 diabetes because of its ability to effectively assess a patient's glucose processing capabilities. It is also commonly used to screen for diabetes mellitus, insulin resistance, impaired pancreatic V-cell function, and other carbohydrate metabolic diseases. While most studies on diabetes remission are based on HbA1c levels, the OGTT remains one of the most essential diagnostic tools for assessing normal glucose profiles. Recent research has aimed to investigate the factors associated with OGTT clearance in patients who achieved remission after lifestyle intervention programs. These studies hypothesize that patients in remission after customized lifestyle intervention may be able to attain a normal glycemic profile through OGTT clearance, in addition to lowering HbA1c levels and improving insulin-related factors. The only diets that have factually demonstrated diabetes reversal via a glucose tolerance test, OGTT, are very low-calorie diets, VLCDs. Research from Newcastle University has shown that an extreme low-calorie diet can remove fat from the pancreas, restore normal insulin secretion, and return blood sugar levels to normal. In their study, after just 1 week on the diet, participants' pre-breakfast blood sugar levels normalized, and their pancreas fat content decreased. Most participants maintained diabetes remission after resuming a normal diet, as confirmed by OGTT results. Fasting mimicking diets. Clinical trials and animal studies have shown that periodic fasting mimicking diets can reverse diabetes symptoms, regenerate insulin-producing cells, and improve glucose tolerance. Human trials also show improved blood sugar control and reduced reliance on medication, with improvements confirmed via OGTT and other metabolic markers, structured lifestyle modification, including plant-based diets. A recent study involving a plant-based diet, physical activity, and psychological support reported that over half of participants who achieved remission also cleared the OGTT, meaning they had normal fasting and postprandial blood glucose after a 75g glucose challenge. Key factors included significant weight loss and improved insulin resistance. Key point, unlike keto, which is muscle and water loss, clearing the OGTT, normal glucose levels after a glucose challenge, is the gold standard for demonstrating true diabetes reversal, not just symptom management. Diets that have achieved this in clinical research are very low-calorie diets, fasting mimicking diets, and comprehensive lifestyle interventions, often plant-based and calorie-restricted. There is no robust evidence that high-fat, low-carb diets can achieve OGTT-defined diabetes reversal. These diets typically merely manage blood glucose by avoiding carbohydrate intake rather than restoring normal glucose tolerance.
But you're about to see the real story right now. Back in the 1920s, Viljamur Stefansson and Karsten Anderson decided to eat a 100% all-meat carnivore diet for a year in the name of science, and the results were terrible, Terrible in what ways? This is the claim.
In all honesty, the only research on the carnivore diet that's been done has been very positive. The 6 peer-reviewed studies that came out in 1928 with Stephanson and Anderson when they did it for a year, and they found no deficiencies whatsoever. They were completely healthy.
And this is the reality. Come on, man, get a job. This is the actual data. The solid lines represent these 2 men and their severely crippled carbohydrate metabolism while eating a carnivore diet after 1 year. They had terrible blood sugar control after 1 year on a carnivore diet. Karsten Anderson had prolonged hyperglycemia. After eating a mixed diet for a few weeks, which obviously increased their carbohydrate intake, they both performed much better on the oral glucose tolerance test represented by the dotted lines. Upon the first glucose tolerance test being administered, Karsten Anderson was found to have glycosuria, or the presence of sugar in his urine, which by itself is a symptom of uncontrolled diabetes. This dude was a wreck. A few hours after the first glucose tolerance test, Karsten Anderson developed pneumonia. Now, before you say, oh, it's just a little pneumonia, remember this research was from the late 1920s. For reference, Alexander Fleming had just discovered penicillin. Pneumonia was the number 3 cause of death behind cancer and heart disease. Pneumonia was no joke in 1929. On top of that, we now know high blood sugar, or hyperglycemia, actually increases the risk of death from pneumonia. Keep watching, because I'm not even done yet. Come on, man. Dr. Baker, how are you going to sit there and say this research was positive and they were both in good health? In
all honesty, the only research on the carnivore diet that's been done has been very positive. The 6 peer-reviewed studies that came out in 1928 with Stephanson and Anderson when they did it for a year, and they found no deficiencies whatsoever. They were completely healthy.
I guess if you're cool with diabetes-like blood sugar control and almost dying, then you could say the research was positive. Hey, at least they weren't deficient in anything. Just because they didn't die of scurvy doesn't mean they were in great health. In fact, one thing they weren't deficient in was cholesterol. That's right, Viljamur Stefansson's cholesterol was over 300 at several points throughout the year while on the carnivore diet. Don't even get me started on Karsten Anderson again. This dude's blood cholesterol bounced around from 600 to 500 to 400 and at one point all the way up to 800 after a 20-hour fast, and then went down to 200 after he stopped the carnivore diet. This is the actual research that was published on the carnivore diet. So what happened to Viljamur Stefansson? Viljamur Stefansson died of a stroke at age 82. A stroke is a form of vascular disease. Look, he is certainly an interesting character, and there is more information out there if you want to learn about his life. Let me know if you can find it, but I was unable to find a cause of death for Karsten Anderson because it appears he has only been preserved in history as a footnote to the comparatively well-publicized Viljamur Stefansson, who has become somewhat of a low-carb / zero-carb / carnivore legend. Like many legends and anecdotes, the real story is much less whimsical and certainly not something I would base my diet on. I don't know about you, but I have more ambitious goals than not dying of scurvy and hoping I survive some reckless N=1 hypercholesterolemic self-experimentation based on a false sense of confidence.
Studies are important. We need to do those. But what inspires people often is just an anecdote.
The rise of anecdotal dieting is facilitated by social media health influencers like Shawn Baker. Anecdotal diet trends minimize or eliminate your ability to conduct a process of verification. Real men are not easily fooled. Now you tell me who whitewashed the limited medical history that exists for the carnivore diet and who came with straight facts that you can verify. If you think I got something wrong, then say something in the comments. What I'm going to do is set up a playlist with the other videos I've created about the carnivore diet. This includes the sore throat, hoarse voice analysis, and perhaps most importantly, the Dr. Ken Berry cholesterol confusion video. You'll want to watch that video next. Subscribe and click to watch the playlist at the end of this video. Y'all know what time it is. Red Pill Vegan. Next.
Fructose from whole fruit does not require insulin for cellular uptake, making fruit a suitable carbohydrate source for many with insulin resistance. Diets low in fat and high in whole plant-based foods, including fruit, have been shown to improve insulin sensitivity and, in some cases, reverse type 2 diabetes as measured by OGTT. Historical evidence. The link between low-fat, high-carbohydrate diets and improved insulin sensitivity dates back to research like Walter Kempner's rice diet, which demonstrated diabetes, heart, kidney, liver, eye, brain, bowel disease reversals, and more, using a very low-fat diet of just white rice and white sugar. Total disease reversal. Recent studies further support these findings, showing that sustained weight loss, a shorter duration of diabetes, and improvement in insulin resistance are significantly associated with OGTT clearance in patients who have achieved remission through lifestyle interventions with a low-fat, high-carb diet. Even individuals on multiple diabetes medications prior to intervention have the potential to attain remission and OGTT clearance through comprehensive lifestyle changes, as medications don't work. This underscores that the pathogenesis of diabetes and prediabetes is substantially impacted by insulin resistance and pancreatic V-cell dysfunction, both of which can be improved through holistic lifestyle interventions, leading to significant improvements in insulin resistance, HOMA-IR, and V-cell function, HOMA-V, in those who achieve remission. In summary, saturated fat, not sugar, is a primary driver of insulin resistance through its effects on muscle and liver cells. Low-carb, high-fat diets do not reverse insulin resistance, they exacerbate it. Only diets that restore normal glucose tolerance on an OGTT, typically low-fat, whole food, plant-based diets, very low-calorie diets, fasting mimicking diets, or comprehensive lifestyle interventions, can claim true diabetes reversal. That's because these are the ancestral evolutionary diets of humans and the proper fuel for the human body. This is Cullen Smith lifting the veil. Make sure to subscribe, full sources in description box, and share with anyone. liftingtheveil.tv for full films.